Avoiding burnout and managing stress is just kind of a day-to-day thing for a creative. But what if we had some better tools and unique strategies that we could use every single day so that we could avoid burnout and really start to get a handle on this whole stress thing? Now, my guest today is Dr. Jen Harrison, and she is a lovely expert in the areas of stress reduction, burnout management, self-care, and high performance. So this episode is just jammed packed with really strategic ways that you can use day to day that you can manage your stress levels. You're going to absolutely love it. Let's get to it. If you're seeking a way to escape the cycle of under-earning and overworking, then you're in the right place. Welcome to The Well-Paid Creative, where we discover how to run a profitable and satisfying creative business. I'm your host, Gabrielle Chipier, and I share what I've learned in my 17 years as a creative pro. From attracting quality clients, to earning more profit, to escaping burnout, and creating amazing work you love, we're going to cover it all. Join me as I interview experts and reflect on my own experiences, both the good and the bad. Before we dive into the show, if you want access to free resources, trainings, and a community of creative pros just like you, hop on over to wellpaidcreative.com where you can find all this and more. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning into the Well-Paid Creative podcast. I am super excited today to be talking to Dr. Jen Harrison, and we're going to be talking all about a very prevalent issue with us creatives and just, I think, in people in general. And that's all about avoiding burnout and handling stress in our lives. So thank you so much for joining me, Jen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. And thanks so much for having me on your podcast.
Wonderful. So tell me a little bit more about how you help people deal with stress and avoiding burnout.
Well, I've worn a number of different hats over the years, and I continue to, but it's all kind of tied in with my current online business and how I help entrepreneurs to relieve stress and develop some powerful stress management as well as stress processing tools and optimizing brain power, creating a success mindset, however you choose to define that, as well as helping to manifest, results in your, not only in the business, but also in your personal life, because there's no point in having a successful business and being burnt out. And, you want to be happy and healthy, but then you also want your business to thrive so that you can, serve your community and serve your clients. So with my online business, I help people through a number of ways. I've got a ton of free content with different stress management tools and strategies to help people on their journey, and also through online courses that I've developed. I do success mindset coaching as well, and then also through my book. It's called Stress Self to Best Self: A Body, Mind, Spirit Guide to Creating a Happier and Healthier You. Volume 1, I'm working on a follow-up book, but that, as you know, takes time and energy and effort with that. And I've been a certified athletic therapist for 33 years and a chiropractor for 23 years. And I've been studying mind-body medicine since the early 90s, actually. I started, reading books by Dr. Deepak Chopra and Dr. Joan Borisenko, who was one of the co-founders of the Mind-Body Medicine Clinic at Harvard. And I've, over the years, learned lots of different stress management tools and different strategies. Because, we talk about, certainly like stress and burnout and mental health is certainly a key top of the list topic these days. And I mean, everybody was burnt out before the pandemic. And then with the pandemic, that just sort of took things to a whole new level. But I look at the mind and body are totally interconnected, and it's literally impossible to separate the two. I mean, there's been research going on for decades, for centuries, really, showing that. And so when we think about stress and burnout, we think of it as just a mental or emotional thing, but it's a full-blown body-mind experience. And so, so I help people with teaching them and coaching them. My patients too. I still have a part-time practice, but just in terms of learning different strategies and tools that they can use, and helping to create a daily self-care practice. That's really important.
And I couldn't agree more, because I know when I get stressed, it's not just up here. I'm tired. I feel hot. I get, jittery, and I feel it all throughout my body. So what would you say, like, as we're getting into that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm stressed, what would you say is kind of the first thing that we need to address or do? What can we kind of take action on?
The first thing that I encourage both my patients and clients and online students to do is to create a go-to self or stress relief toolkit. Create a list of just some really simple go-to tools, and I'll go over a few that I'll share with your audience today, with your community. Because it's important. What a lot of people don't realize or don't know is that when you're in fight or flight mode, so when you're stressed out, you can lose up to 70% blood flow to your prefrontal cortex of your brain.
Really?
And that's, yes. And that's really important, because your prefrontal cortex is responsible for learning, for retaining new information, for intellectual thought, for creativity, for decision making. And so when you're either in an acute stress situation, like something has just happened that's really triggered you, or it's just been a buildup of stress, through the day or through the week or month or however long it's been, you're in survival mode. You're literally in fight or flight mode. You're not in intellectual mode going, ooh, I wonder which, meditation I should use, or, ooh, I wonder what, yeah, you're literally in survival mode. So if you've got a go-to stress management tool list, then that's all you have to think about. It's just like, oh, I just need to go to my list. I don't have to think about what's on the list. And so I encourage people to just enter it like in your cell phone, or have Post-it notes, on your laptop monitor, or, Post-it notes on your bathroom mirror, or, write a piece of paper and have it in your wallet or in your purse. So something that's just easily accessible. So I'm all about making things like simple, doable, actionable, because otherwise that's going to create overwhelm. Yeah. So what I coach people to do is just a simple breathing meditation. And, when we get stressed, it's like you were talking about, like, you feel it in your body. So a lot of times we feel, our respiratory diaphragm muscle that helps us breathe, it gets really tight, so we end up doing shallow breathing. So by stopping and just taking 10 deep breaths in and out, and just make sure that the amount of air that you breathe in equals the amount of air that you breathe out, really acts as a good pattern disruptor, because now you're taking your mind and focusing on the breathing. But then there's also a lot of physiological benefits of doing a breathing meditation too. It helps with, blood and lymphatic circulation. It helps with your digestive system. It helps to calm your nervous system down, actually. And then even energetically, it helps to create some energy balancing. Like, that's why breathing is such a key part in yoga practices, or in Tai Chi or Qigong. Those are key. Breathing is a key component. And I joke with my patients and with my clients, I say, like, you're going to be breathing anyway, so you may as well use it to your full advantage. So I encourage people to actually not only have that as a tool for kind of like a in the moment where your stress levels and cortisol levels are through the roof, but to incorporate it as part of a daily self-care practice as well. And so instead of just saying, oh yeah, I'll do my yoga breathing at the end of the day, or in my yoga class, 2 days from now, I encourage people to do that like once an hour throughout your day. Because oftentimes what happens is that, you start, you may wake up in the morning, you've got a certain amount of stress, but then the stress continues to build, kind of exponentially throughout the day. So at the end of the day, your stress level may be up fairly high. And if you want to at least try and get some semblance of sleep in the evening, you've got a lot of work to do in the evening just to lower your stress levels down enough so that you can, get a good night's sleep. Whereas if you're doing, say, a breathing meditation once an hour, which is easy to do, it hardly takes less than a minute to do, then, your stress levels will go up, but then you can bring them down. So then you're more modulating them through the day. And so that's really beneficial. And then you can add a component to that. You can add a mantra to that. And the one that I like to teach, because it's really simple, is just you say in your mind as you're inhaling, I breathe in relaxation. And then as you're exhaling, you say to yourself, I breathe out tension. And then you would just repeat that through 10 breaths. And you can breathe, do longer than that if you want. But I mean, even just doing that 10 times can be quite powerful and, help to lower cortisol levels and lower your stress levels in a fairly short period of time. And as I said, it's simple to do, and you're going to be breathing anyway. So, so you may as well use that. And I've literally done that meditation standing in line at the grocery store. And I wasn't particularly stressed out, but I just, there was a huge long line ahead of me. And I thought, well, I'm going to be here for a while. I may as well just do this breathing meditation. So it's easy to do, and it's actionable, easily actionable. Another tool that I've discovered a number of years ago that's really powerful is called emotional freedom techniques. It's also known as EFT or tapping. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, or if you've heard of that, Gabrielle.
I've heard of it, but I've never actually used it or looked into it.
Yeah, it's quite amazing, and there's been over like 100 studies. I think it's 115 now published in peer-reviewed journals showing its effectiveness in relieving stress and even like treating trauma and PTSD. But it's a combination of tapping over a specific set of acupressure points through the head and upper body and hands. While verbing what's bothering you. And so there's a myriad of techniques that fall under the umbrella of emotional freedom techniques, or EFT, or sometimes it's just called tapping. But there's a simple, it's called a basic recipe that you can learn to just deal with like stress in the moment. And I have a tutorial on my website, actually a free one, and I've created a number of EFT tapping meditations, as well as some guided meditations on my website as well that are free for people to access. So that's a really like simple but powerful tool that people can learn how to, and and have that as part of the toolkit. And people may have other strategies that they really like as well. But the key thing is to make that go-to list and just have it someplace that's easily accessible, so that you can do that. And then, as I said, I also really encourage to have a daily self-care practice as well.
I love that technique. And for us techie people, if you have, then definitely enable that Breathe app, because that is something that has totally saved me. And it's funny because I'm sure it, calibrates your heart rate or something, and it can tell when you're getting stressed, and it will ding and it will say, take a moment, and you get the little blooming, icon that you can breathe along with. And it is so simple. And like you said, we kind of forget to do it throughout the day. So we get to that point where we're just so stressed out. And by incorporating some of these techniques just frequently, small little bits throughout our day, I can really see how beneficial that would be to just reduce that overall stress level.
Yeah. And the more you get doing it every day, the more it becomes well. And I like technology fabulous, because we've got all sorts of little reminders and apps that we could use. Aside of that, I actually was working with someone, and they were, having issues. And I was saying, well, are you doing like, a breathing meditation throughout the day? And she goes, well, when I'm at work, I can't use like, the breathing app, that I use. I can't access my phone because like I'm at work. And I'm going, okay, like you can breathe sometimes we get too dependent on apps and technology. And so, I mean, they definitely have their place. There's no question. And it is about, it's what works best for you, but it's also to realize anytime, any place, with or without tech.
We're going to get right back to the conversation because it is so good. But I want to tell you about a free quiz at wellpaidcreative.com/quiz. It's going to help you discover the unique hidden key to higher profit and awe-inspiring growth in your creative business. Now, there are so many keys to growth in a business, but they don't all of your business right now. That's why I developed the Profit Finder quiz, and it's going to show you exactly what you need to be focusing on to reach the next level. Now, making a decent living from the work you love doesn't have to be hard. And when you answer these profit-finding questions for yourself, you're going to make it so much easier. Go take the Profit Finder quiz today. You can find it at wellpaidcreative.com and get your unique key plus in-depth strategies designed to help you grow fast. Now, again, that's at wellpaidcreative.com/quiz. All right, let's get back to the episode. What would you say is something that is kind of almost a precursor to stress? Because I know that we kind of, we focus a lot on, okay, stressed, or now that I have burnout, how can I? But what are some of the ways that we can kind of make sure it doesn't happen in the first place?
Yeah, that is such an excellent question, Gabrielle. And part of having a success mindset is being proactive rather than reactive. Like things like a daily self-care practice comes into play. That I coach people on is covering, I call them the basics. I have a book dedicated to it, and it's really a foundational piece. And what I consider the basics are, drinking enough water, eating healthily, exercise, and getting enough sleep. And to me, those are foundational pieces, because when we get stressed out, those are the first things to fly out the window, right? So instead of drinking water, you're tanking up on coffee, the caffeine and the sugar, or drinking too much alcohol to try and lower your stress at the end of the day. And those are all really hopes that can, you might think that they're helping in the short term, but in the long term, they're actually going to be promoting stress actually, and making things way, way worse in the long run. So when I come across people, let's say the coffee's the problem, and they're drinking way too much coffee and not enough water. I like things to be simple and actionable. So it'll be just set up a 4-week plan for yourself, but just set a 4-week plan for yourself where each week, you're going to be consuming less coffee each day and a little bit more water, so that, gradually within 4 weeks, then you should have reversed the process so you're getting enough water. When our brains are fully hydrated, our brains are actually about 80% water. So when we're stressed, we need as much brain optimization and brain power as possible. And so, so water is really important. So just, do a simple strategy like that. And then with help, I don't know about you, when stress levels go up, chocolate consumption goes way up, or, whatever your snack of choice is, your vice. And so, again, it's about making things as easy as possible. Like if you've got a crazy week come up, or things are kind of crazy, there's a lot of simple ways to do healthy food prep, like using slow cookers, or I've recently become a huge fan of pressure cookers, because you can cook awesome stuff within 30 to 60 minutes and have really amazing healthy food. I'm all about salads, because you can throw everything in the kitchen sink in. Smoothies, you can throw fruits, veggies, protein in various forms in there too. So just easy, healthy, easily accessible foods, and really with very little, you could literally spend less than 30 minutes just prepping that for your week, right? Knowing what food you're going to need, and having that on your grocery list, and making things really simple so that you're having that healthy nutrition. And it's not that you're not going to be having your snacks, but just making it having that foundational piece, that basic piece in place. And then with exercise, it's interesting with the pandemic, because, all the gyms were closed, yoga and Pilates studios were closed. And I know I had so many of my patients and other people I was talking with going, oh, jeepers, I can't work out, and I can't go to the gym, and I can't do my fitness class, or I can't do my, yoga or Pilates or whatever. And when we get stressed out and we're in fight or flight mode, we can get very easily into a rigid mindset and not look at easily accessible options that are there. Now, I'm kind of biased because I work out at home, and I have for years, so that's easy for me. But, when you get into that rigid set, you're blocking yourself off to really easily accessible tools. So now a lot of yoga and Pilates studios ended up doing, virtual classes. But if you go on YouTube, there are so many really good quality, actually, workouts that have been uploaded there that are designed for you to be doing in your living room with little to no equipment. So exercise doesn't have to be complicated. And I also find, too, people will get into a rigid mindset that causes them more stress, is that it's an either or. Oh, well, I can only get to the gym, once a week or 5 times a week. I may as well not even bother going. As opposed to, maybe I can only get to the gym once a week, but I can go for a walk with my family, after supper. I live in a 2-story, house or condo, so I can take stairs 2 at a time. I can do, as creatives, we spend a lot of time in front of the computer running our online businesses. And so everybody should be getting up actually every 30 minutes to stretch and move around. There was research that came out in 2015 showing that sitting can be quite detrimental to your short-term as well as your long-term health. So you can stand and do jumping jacks. You can do, periodically all throughout your day. So there's lots of different options with that, with exercise. And that's, again, a foundational piece. And then getting enough sleep. I have a whole chapter in my book on that, on sleep hygiene. There's a number of different things to address, but I would say the key thing is screens. I mean, we're on screens all day long. For most people, I would say, the screen is literally the last thing that they're looking at before they close their eyes and their head hits the pillow. So, there's a threefold problem actually with that. Number one is that the light from the screen stimulates the brain. Well, you don't want to be stimulating your brain, in the hour, before you're going to bed. So that's why it's recommended, through research that, you should be turning off all screens and have zero screen time for at least an hour before you go to bed at night. The other thing too is that, if you're watching the news or, scrolling through social media, you're stimulating your brain. And when we're tired, and just before, when we're tired and we're ready to fall asleep, that's when our brains are actually almost in kind of in a hypnotic state. We're very suggestible, and things can be easily implanted into our subconscious minds. And so that's why you should never, ever stop watching the news before you go to bed. Just step away from your TV, step away from your tech device, because the good thing about that is that you can actually if you know that you're in a suggestible state, that's a great time to be using your affirmations or mantras to be imprinting positive things for yourself during that state. And same thing when you first get up in the morning. So that would be a key thing to help with sleep. So the basics and maintaining the basics and working on that. And it's not going to be perfect, obviously. Not all days or weeks are created equally. But if you really have that as one of your main focus, then that's going to go a long way in preventing burnout. But then also if unexpected things happen, because we're human beings on planet Earth and unexpected things happen, you're going to be in a much better place to be dealing with stress and be avoiding burnout if you've got that foundational piece in place. And then another thing that I like to recommend people to do is is once you've got your tools, once you've got, the simple meditations, or, you may have some guided meditations that you like to do, or you may learn EFT tapping, is take some time, take a few minutes to get yourself into a relaxed state, get yourself out of fight or flight mode into, it's actually called rest and digest mode. And just calm your mind and clear your mind, and then set aside, I usually say about 20 minutes, because that's more actionable. It's less time than it takes to, sit down and zone out watching, a sitcom. And just start with that and just do a little reflection and ask yourself the question, is the stress that I'm experiencing, is it situational, or is it part of an ongoing chronic behavior pattern? So what I mean by that is situational could be, say a creative who is maybe launching a business, running a business, scaling a business, raising a family, and there's inherent positive and negative stress in that. But then let's say, on top of that, maybe they have a parent who's become ill or aging and they have to take care of them. There's a lot of situational stress, involved in that, as opposed to maybe looking at your life and going, oh man, there's just always drama going on. Maybe, the VAs that you hire just, aren't doing, quality work, or they're always missing the deadlines that you set for them, or or there's always a family issue going on, or whatever. So regardless of where the stress is coming from, it could be coming from a combination of things. Oftentimes there's some limiting belief systems in play that are actually making the stress worse. And so for some examples, there could be a limiting belief system, I have to do it all. If I don't do it, it won't get done. Yeah. Or if I don't do it, it won't get done properly. Yep. Yeah. And speaking as a creative, I think another problem that a lot of people have is that is fear of failure. So that's where the perfectionism comes out. It's got to be done perfectly. And so we put a lot of stress on ourselves to, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be done just so. And so that can exacerbate the stress and make it worse, or even create its own stress in looking at that. And sometimes even fear of success will come into play. It's just like, oh my gosh, well, if I do grow my business, if I do take it to the next level, how am I going to be able to handle that? That's going to be too much. And so you stress yourself over that. And it can even lead to a bit of self-sabotage as well. And so that's where I find EFT can be a really powerful tool. Excuse me. It's great because, as I mentioned before, you can use it as a self-care tool, but you can also work with an EFT practitioner. There's a lot of coaches who are EFT practitioners. There's psychologists who are trained in EFT as well, depending on where you are on your stress journey. It can be a really powerful tool, because by identifying and looking at the stress a little bit deeper, and looking at some of the underlying root causes and helping to clear them out, then that can help lower your stress and prevent you from crashing and burning.
I absolutely love that insight, because if we don't find out the causes, and like you said, whether it's situational or whether it's, if we caused it ourselves, or if it's outside of us, then we're never going to be able to fix it. And it's just going to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. And then we're just going to be stress cases for the rest of our lives. And yes. I don't know about you, but that does not appeal to me at all.
No. It's kind of funny. A key part of my athletic therapy training years ago was find the cause, treat the cause. And so that's why I talk about the difference between stress management and stress processing. So stress management is very important. Don't get me wrong, like doing the breathing meditation, or, listening to a guided meditation, or, there's different things that you can do. Are very, very important. But the analogy that I use is that if you have a leak in your roof, and every time it rains, you've got to put a bucket, in your kitchen to catch the water, that's stress management. You're managing that situation. But if you're really going to get the root cause of that, like, you need to, get a contractor or a roofer to find out, what's happening. And if there's a hole in the roof, or, your eaves troughs need to be cleaned out, or, whatever's causing it, you want to get to the cause and treat that. And so, but a lot of people don't want to take that next step, because it does take a bit of work. It takes some self-reflection. But again, that's the thing. If you're just working at it a little bit at a time, and just having that as part of your daily self-care practice, it can make a huge difference in the long run. And sometimes you need help with that. So you might need to talk to a friend or family member. You might need to work with an EFT practitioner. You might need to work with a coach. You might need to work with a membership website, or you might need to listen to some podcasts. You might need to, and that's a big mindset shift. For creatives and for entrepreneurs too, is that asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. Yeah. And it may be, hiring extra help in terms of, hiring a VA or a business manager, or, someone to do your Facebook marketing, your online marketing, whatever it may happen to be.
Wow, this has just been such a fantastic amount of resources. And you mentioned so many great books and resources on your site and on others. So we're going to make sure that all of those get linked up down in the show notes. So you'll have to go to wellpaidcreative.com to go check out the episode. I ask this question of all of my guests, and I love hearing their responses. So do you have a hobby or just an activity that you do on the side that's just for yourself?
Hiking in the mountains. I live in Calgary, Alberta, so I'm close to the Rocky Mountains, and I love the mountains. That's why I've lived here for many, many years. And a friend of mine from the clinic actually got me into hiking last summer, and so that's just been, oh my gosh, so good for the soul to be out in nature, to be able to be there without masks and be socially distanced in nature, and just soak in the majesty of the mountains and the fresh air and the blue sky, and so that's something that I do just for me.
Oh, wonderful. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, and it's great because then you can share it with friends, and certainly through the pandemic, it's been a wonderful activity to do with friends in a safe way.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dr. Jen. This has just been absolutely amazing having you on the podcast. Where can people find you online?
They can find me on drjenniferharrison.com. So just drjenniferharrison.com. And so I've got, a ton of free resources on my website. I've got a free membership. Plus I've got online courses. And as I said, I do some success mindset coaching. I also have a freebie, a free PDF to download called 3 Ways to Break Through Burnout and Boost Your Brain, 3 minutes at a time.
Oh, wonderful. I love that. I love the number 3.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming. It has been just an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Gabrielle. It's been really wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Well-Paid Creative. This podcast is sponsored by 12 Strong, a full-service marketing automations agency. You can learn more at 12strong.com. Theme music is by Silverhoof, and our guests are not paid for their time and energy, so please do give them any support that you can. Before we head out, if you want access to free resources, trainings, and a community of creative pros just like you, visit wellpaidcreative.com, where you can find all this and so much more. Join me next week for another episode as we continue discussing how you can grow and love a profitable creative business. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, and if you enjoyed it, I'd be so grateful for a review or a share with someone you think would benefit. Now, let's hear some more of that amazing theme song.